Rodney Hinton Jr. walks into court with a bit of a smirk as he stands accused of intentionally hitting a sheriff's deputy with his car a day after his son was shot and killed by a Cincinnati police officer.
I wouldn't say he's fully competent, but as the days go on, I think he gets more competent every day.
I have the latest on Rodney Hinton's case and how his mental state will take center stage as he faces a possible death sentence for the murder of a sheriff's deputy. I'm Angenette Levy, and this is Crime Fix. Before we get into the very latest on Rodney Hinton Jr.'s case, I want to tell you about some Law and Crime news and merch. The Law and Crime Docket is your one-stop shop for trending stories, thrilling body cams, and an exclusive look at brand new shows and podcasts from the faces you love. Sign up for our Docket newsletter by scanning the QR code you see here or click the link in the description and pinned in the comments right under this video. At the beginning of June, we will pick 10 new Docket subscribers and we'll send them a Law and Crime hat. How cool. Winners will be announced in the newsletter. Now back to the very latest on Rodney Hinton's case. He appeared in court for the very first time since a grand jury indicted him on aggravated murder charges for the death of a sheriff's deputy in Cincinnati. I'll get to that court appearance very, very shortly. The grand jury indicted Hinton on aggravated murder and other charges that include death specifications, meaning Hinton could face a possible death sentence if he's convicted of murdering Deputy Larry Henderson. It was Friday, May 2nd, when police say Rodney Hinton Jr. purposely drove his vehicle into Sheriff's Deputy Henderson, who was directing traffic at the University of Cincinnati's graduation ceremony. Henderson was standing on a concrete area near a traffic light. Hinton was in a median in his car when the prosecutor says Hinton stopped and drove directly into Henderson. Now, why would Rodney Hinton do something like this? No one can say for certain, but a day earlier, Hinton's 18-year-old son, Ryan Hinton Jr., was shot and killed by a Cincinnati police officer. Police say Ryan Hinton was armed and in a stolen car with friends.
This is the other officer, the one who fires the shot. This is his body camera as he approaches the scene. This is the firearm that was recovered at the scene after the individual was shot. This is what he had in his hand while the officers were chasing him. It's just a photo of it here at Criminalistics. Remember I told you he fell on the concrete and the officers said that they heard the metal hit the ground? There are 3 spots on here where this gun has scratches on it. We believe those occurred when he hit the ground with the firearm.
I'll have more on the people who were with Ryan Hinton later on. Now, hours before that press conference, Cincinnati police met with Ryan Hinton's family, including his father, Rodney Hinton Jr. The prosecutor laid out a timeline. At 9:33 a.m. on Friday, May 2nd, Rodney Hinton arrived at the Cincinnati Police Department for a meeting. 18 minutes later, at 9:51 a.m., Hinton became upset and left. Then at 10:37 a.m., Rodney Hinton left the police department with family members in their car instead of his car. Now, after this, the prosecutor had said that Hinton's family took him to get something to eat, but he didn't want anything. So instead, he took a 30-minute nap. After that, at 12:41 p.m., Hinton's family took him back to the police department to pick up his car. At 12:44 p.m., the prosecutor says Hinton left the police department, but returned 5 minutes later and drove through the parking lot before leaving again 1 minute later at 12:50. 10 minutes later, the prosecutor said that Rodney Hinton Jr. ran his car intentionally into Larry Henderson.
He waits there. There's no place to turn. There's no signal there. He's just in that unused lane. Because he was up a little bit of a hill, he was at a higher elevation, and he could look down and see what was going on in front of him. And he could see Deputy Henderson working that traffic light. At 1:05 p.m., Hinton floors the vehicle, crossing into the opposing traffic lanes, and drives directly at Deputy Henderson and hitting him.
Prosecutor Connie Pillage said Rodney Hinton's family was in the car behind him and actually saw everything happen.
He never veers off course. He never slows down. While he was paused in that unused center lane, there was traffic coming. He didn't make his move until the oncoming traffic had cleared, and he had an open road ahead of him.
The world can be a really scary and unpredictable place, and that's where our partner and sponsor, Morgan & Morgan, comes in. The firm has more than 1,000 lawyers because they win a lot. In the last few months alone, Morgan & Morgan has secured a $9.3 million verdict for a car crash victim in Florida, a $5.6 million verdict for another car accident victim in Atlanta, not to mention a $1.8 million verdict in Kentucky after the insurance company offered the victim a mere $5,000 in that case. Can you believe that? Even if you think your case isn't worth millions, why not start a claim and fight for what you deserve? Morgan & Morgan makes it really easy. You can start a claim from your phone in just 8 clicks. So if you're ever hurt, you can easily start a claim at forthepeople.com/crimefix or click the link in the description and pinned in the comments. After Hinton's arrest, he was taken to the police department for questioning.
We're going to get you where you're going, okay?
Can you stand up for me, sir? I'm gonna put this around your waist.
Nobody let me in. I had to really just showed up. I had to go all the way upstairs and get Gregory's bag. So they could be knocking. Okay, call me. I was ringing buzzers and knocking. You don't mind how you feel something? I wasn't thinking that much.
Are you able to stand on your own?
Try. Walked up here.
Here, use this hand to hold you. I'm gonna put this hand in a cuff.
The next day, Hinton appeared in court for his first court appearance and muttered something about gone forever to the deputies. Now Rodney Hinton Jr. is appearing in court for the first time since the grand jury indicted him.
We're here today because Mr. Hinton has been indicted by the grand jury on the two counts of aggravated murder with death penalty specifications, 1 count of murder, a specialty felony, and 2 counts of felonious assault. Mr. Hinton, if you want to be represented by an attorney but cannot afford one, I will appoint 2 attorneys who are certified by the Ohio Supreme Court to handle death penalty cases. If you hire your own attorney, he or she does not need to be death penalty certified. You can hire 1, 2, or as many lawyers as you want or can afford. If you are indigent and need an attorney appointed, I will select 2 attorneys that are certified by the Ohio Supreme Court. It is my understanding, sir, that you wish to hire your own attorney and in fact that you have retained Mr. Bennett to represent you. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett, you are representing him, isn't that correct? Okay, thank you so much.
Now, Rodney Hinton Jr. could get 2 public defenders, but his family has hired a well-known defense attorney in Cincinnati who has handled high-profile cases. Now back to the hearing.
Mr. Hinton, I need to go over some rights with you, okay? So the first and the second count of the indictment are aggravated murder, and it is what is called a special felony, and it carries with it the possibility of the death penalty, which may be imposed, making this what we call a capital murder case. Although a capital murder case is procedurally much more complicated, most of the rights you have in a death penalty case are the same as any other type of criminal matter. The aggravated murder charge is also accompanied by 1 specification, which we will talk about in just a minute, okay? You are presumed to be innocent, which means the state of Ohio has to prove that you are guilty if they can. They do this by calling witnesses to the stand and presenting evidence.
Judge Jody Lubers then went over how the trial could proceed, with a jury or without one in a death penalty case.
You have the right to have this case heard by a jury of 12 people. They would hear and decide the evidence. All 12 must be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt of your guilt in this case in order for you to be convicted. If the jury finds you guilty of the crime and the specification, they can recommend the imposition of a death penalty. They can also recommend one of the life sentences options, which I will talk about in just a minute. In the alternative, you have the right to waive a jury and have the case tried to a 3-judge panel. In this event, myself and 2 other judges would hear the case, decide the evidence, and if necessary, determine the sentence. The trial will be bifurcated, that is, divided into 2 parts. One is the trial phase with either the jury or the 3-judge panel, and the second is the sentencing phase, which would happen if you have a jury or a 3-judge panel. Either way, there's still 2 phases to the trial. Okay? You understand?
The judge went over the possible sentences with Hinton if he is convicted.
If you are found guilty of the principal offense, but not guilty of the specification, I will sentence you to one of the following sentences: life imprisonment without possibility of parole, life imprisonment without parole for 30 years, life imprisonment without parole for 25 years, or life imprisonment without parole for 20 years. If you are found guilty of the principal offense and the specification, we will move to a second phase of the trial known as the sentencing phase. The sentencing phase is presided over by the same jury or the same 3-judge panel that heard the trial. At this phase, the state has the burden of proving that aggravating circumstances are sufficient to outweigh the factors in mitigation. The aggravating circumstance in this case is that the offense was committed and that the victim, Larry Henderson, was a law enforcement officer, and you had reasonable cause to know or knew he was a law enforcement officer, and either at the time he engaged in his duties or it was your specific purpose to kill a law enforcement officer. The prosecution has a burden of going forward with evidence that proves the aggravated circumstance. You have the burden of going forward with evidence of any factors in mitigation of the death penalty. Mitigating factors are those that lessen your moral culpability or diminish the appropriateness of the death penalty as a sentence. They can include your age, lack of prior criminal record, mental illness, etc. Just about anything can be a mitigating factor.
Now, after the judge went through all of these things with Rodney Hinton Jr., she asked him some other standard questions, and one had to deal with medications Hinton is taking.
Mr. Defendant, are you a citizen of the United States?
Yes.
And are you under the influence of alcohol or any drugs?
No.
Are you taking any medications right now?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
What medications are you taking, sir?
Laxapro.
I'm sorry?
Laxapro.
I can't hear you.
Laxapro.
Maxiprone? Laxapro. And what is that for, sir? I'm just asking to make sure that he knows what he's doing today so that he's of clear mind. I ask all because he's entering his plea, that he's not intoxicated, he's not loopy, he's not under the influence of any drugs. I'm not trying to pry into anything, sir, but just to make sure he knows what he's doing here today.
I think he's fully aware of what's going on. He understands what's going on.
So you don't think he's high on drugs, that he's competent to stand here today? That's all I'm asking, Mr. Bennett.
I don't think, I think he understands the nature of the procedure.
Lexapro is a drug used to treat both anxiety and depression. Hinton's attorney was difficult to hear, but he said he believed that right now Hinton understood what was happening in court and that he was not intoxicated.
Then the plea is not guilty and will be entered as such. Anything else from the state? All right, thank you so much. Anything else from you, Mr. Bennett?
None.
I know that it's been a no bond hearing has been set and heard by Judge Yates, and the bond is currently no bond. Okay, anything further from anyone? Okay, I have a couple other further things that I want to say. All right, the defendant will be held and continue to be held without bond. Okay, I have a few more rights that I need to go over with you, Mr. Hinton. You have the right to have your case heard within a speedy amount of time. Generally, a person charged with a crime has the right to have their case heard within 270 days of that arrest. This incident supposedly occurred on May 2nd of 2025, and as soon as your statutory trial date should be somewhere around the beginning of February of 2026.
Following the arraignment and after Hinton entered a not guilty plea, Hinton's attorney spoke outside of the courtroom about a number of topics, including the medication he was taking.
That is for a mental disorder, and there's other medications that he was taking for mental disorders prior to being incarcerated. I don't think that his medication that he's taking now has caught up to the conditions that he has. The jail has to evaluate him, and then they have to determine what other medications are appropriate.
Is he still competent enough to stand trial?
I think, I wouldn't say he's fully competent, but as the days go on, I think he gets more competent every day. So I think he's better now mentally than he was when I first met with him a week ago.
This case is not a whodunit, far from it. So Rodney Hinton Jr.'s mental state at the time that he hit Deputy Henderson will be the central issue at his trial, according to his attorney.
I think we can reach that February date. I think the case is a high-profile case. It's not a complicated case. It's not a simple case, but it's not complicated. It's not factually complicated. I think the issue is his mindset, his mental status at the time of the offense. That's a straightforward, singular issue that can be resolved, I believe, by February.
Clyde Bennett wouldn't elaborate on what mental health issues Rodney Hinton may have. And right now, he has entered a plea of not guilty, but that could change down the line. He could change his plea to not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect.
I had a death penalty case about 9 months ago in Claremont County. It was a hung jury. So I had a death penalty case where we utilized the defense of not guilty by reason of insanity successfully about 10 or 15 years ago. So it's a case.
How do you sum this one up compared to maybe some of the ones you've done?
This case, in my mind, is a clear-cut, classic case of a person being mentally ill at the time they committed the offense. More so than some other cases that I've had where the mental status of the person committing the crime was at issue. This young man had a mental condition and defect before any of this happened, and it was triggered by the video of his son being killed. This is a classic mental illness case, more so than the other cases that I've successfully resolved.
What was the mental illness that he had that you think created this?
You will see that in the future. I know it created it, and that'll be forthcoming.
So based on what Hinton's lawyer is saying, he believes Rodney Hinton Jr. was mentally ill before May 2nd. And watching the body camera footage of a Cincinnati police officer shooting his son Ryan triggered some type of event from which he still hasn't recovered.
No, he hasn't. When I say he's coming out of it, that's based on my observation of him, the way he presented to me, body language, his demeanor. He appears to be better now than he was when I first met with him. So the residual effect of the episode that he experienced, it seems to have lessened over the days.
Can you say that you think he's shown remorse over this then?
I can't say that. I don't think he's still in his right frame of mind to even know what happened. But he's getting better. So what you would typically be able to assess and evaluate from a client that's lucid, I can't do that with him. Not yet. I may be able to in the future. In the near future, maybe. But right now, no.
So how long could it take for Rodney Hinton Jr. to come out of this mental episode?
That's a great question. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychiatric nurse practitioner. I just have to meet with my client every other day for a wellness check and hope that he becomes lucid again. And that hasn't happened totally yet, but I think he's going toward that. I think he's getting better, and I think he's going to be normal soon, but he's not there yet. So I don't proactively do anything to make certain that his mental status returns to normalcy. I'm not a doctor.
So right now, Hinton's being held at a jail in the neighboring county, and his mental state will be an issue at trial for certain. Now, this is what Hinton said when he was booked into the jail in Claremont County after his arrest.
You able to hold yourself up there?
I'm going to ask you some questions, all right? Do you have a serious medical or mental health issue that needs immediate attention? Is that a yes or a no? Have you recently considered attempted suicide? No. You want to hurt yourself or anybody else? No. Currently taking an addictive substance or on opioid therapy? Had any radiation or chemotherapy the past 6 months? You have a pacemaker? You have anything on you that'll cut us or stick us? You have anything on you at all? Okay. We're gonna pat you down real quick. Have you ever been here before? No. What all you got going on? I see you got the hospital gown. You're in Claremont County, bud. Batavia. You able to lift this foot up so I can feel the bottom of your foot?
You heard that Hinton seemed to indicate at that time that he didn't have a mental issue. So we'll see what happens moving forward. But right now, he is taking a medication for depression and anxiety. Meanwhile, Hinton's attorney, Clyde Bennett, had a message for the public.
My message would be that in our great country, in our great community, you're presumed innocent until proven guilty, and he's not been proven guilty. I would ask that everyone be objective and be fair, and that means you remove yourself from your biases, regardless of what side of the fence you're on. It's difficult, but that's what I would ask the community to do.
A hearing for Rodney Hinton Jr. will be held next week to determine scheduling as his case moves forward. The investigation into the shooting of Ryan Hinton by Cincinnati police is ongoing. Meanwhile, the 3 young men who were with Ryan Hinton in that stolen car that day have been indicted on a number of felonies, including theft, receiving stolen property, and possessing weapons under disability, which means they had felony convictions. Deputy Henderson was laid to rest last Friday. And that's it for this episode of Crime Fix. I'm Angenette Levy. Thanks so much for being with me. I'll see you back here next time.